This is a quiet story, told in darkness. When you're ready, we'll begin. The mountain that remembers. A man learns to live beyond effort, allowing life to move through him without resistance. Wei left the capital in late autumn, when the mountains wore mist like old silk and the river grew thin as a silver thread. He felt no urgency in his departure, only a quiet pull, like the world was gently taking him by the sleeve and guiding him toward something he had sensed but never named. Shin did not tell him to go. Shin did not tell him to stay. Shin simply said, "When clarity deepens, the world becomes your teacher. Sometimes the world is very large, Wei." Wei bowed, gathered his few belongings, and walked north. He traveled through villages where smoke curled from low chimneys. He crossed fields harvested to bare earth. He followed the river until the land rose in long, patient slopes. The mountains waited. They did not summon him. They simply stood, vast, quiet, present, like beings older than thought. Wei entered them at dusk. The gate of stone and breath. The path into the mountains was narrow and winding, lined with cedars that whispered with every passing breeze. As Wei climbed, each step softened the noise of his mind. Thoughts didn't disappear. They drifted, like mist loosening from the treetops. Hours passed. Night settled. The moon rose pale behind thin clouds. Wei reached a natural arch of stone, the kind shaped not by hands, but by centuries of rain and wind. It felt like a threshold without needing to declare itself one. He stood there, breath clouding in the cold air. A thought rose. If I cross, something will change. He didn't force himself. He simply breathed. Then he stepped through. The moment he did, the air shifted. Not colder, not heavier, just clearer, as if the world on this side required less from him. He continued deeper. The path grew steeper, but he found himself moving with ease, as if his body understood something his mind had not yet learned. He came to a clearing bathed in moonlight. In the center stood a lone figure, a man sitting cross-legged on a flat stone, completely still. Wei approached slowly. The man did not open his eyes, yet he spoke. "You breathe like someone who has begun to disappear." Wei stiffened. Disappear? The man smiled faintly. "Not from the world. From yourself." Wei sat at a respectful distance. The man's presence felt both human and slightly more than human. Not supernatural, but deeply natural, like the mountains themselves had shaped him. "Who are you?" Wei asked. "A passerby," the man said. "Like you." Wei hesitated. "Why are you here?" The man lifted his face toward the moon. to remember what humans forget. Wei waited. The man offered nothing more. After a long silence, Wei asked, "What is it we forget?" The man's eyes opened. They were calm and clear. Clearer than any eyes Wei had ever seen. That the world doesn't begin or end with us. When we understand this, not with thought, but with being, we become light enough for the mountain to teach us. Wei bowed his head. Something inside him loosened, almost painfully. The man said, "Walk north until the sun touches the valley floor. There you will find the place that remembers you." "Remembers me?" Wei asked. But the man closed his eyes again. The conversation was over. Wei rose and continued into the night. The Valley of Echoes. Wei walked until the sky softened from black to indigo. When the first gold of morning touched the valley floor, he noticed a narrow descent between two cliffs. A soft wind flowed from the opening. It felt strangely familiar, not because he had been here, but because the quietness inside the wind matched the quietness in him. He entered. The valley was small and hushed, filled with low shrubs and old boulders shapen by forgotten weather. Mountains cradled the space like cupped hands. Wei sat on a stone and listened. At first, he heard nothing unusual, just wind brushing the grass. Then, slowly, he noticed it. Every sound echoed longer than it should have, but softly, like a memory repeating itself without urgency. Shin's words came back to him. Clarity is not something you gain. It is something you stop clouding. Wei closed his eyes. The valley breathed around him. He breathed with it. And then the valley spoke, not with words, but with resonance. His thoughts rose. His childhood, his fears, his striving, his moments of awakening, his longing for ease. The valley did not judge them. It reflected them gently, like a pond receiving fallen leaves. He felt himself thinning, not dissolving, but expanding. The boundary between his breath and the valley's breath grew porous. A quiet realization dawned. He had never been separate from anything. He had only felt separate. He opened his eyes. Nothing around him had changed, yet everything had. Wei whispered, "Is this immortality?" A voice inside, not thought, not memory, answered, "No. This is intimacy with the world." The ridge where time slows. Wei continued deeper, not drawn by desire, but by a natural unfolding. Eventually, he reached a high ridge overlooking miles of rolling stone. The wind here was strong, but not biting. It carried a clarity that made thought unnecessary. He sat. Time loosened. Clouds drifted at the pace of breath. The mountains felt alive, not as beings, but as presences. Wei sensed something subtle shifting inside him, a thinning of self, not erasure, transparency. He remembered Lao Tzu's words. To return is the movement of the Tao. He remembered Shen's. The sage sees from the center. Now another layer appeared. The immortal is one who has no center, because all things are the center. Wind passed over him. Clouds parted. Time quieted. He felt completely unguarded, yet nothing threatened him. He felt completely open, yet nothing overwhelmed him. He felt completely alive, yet nothing belonged to him. A tear slipped down his cheek, not from emotion, from the sheer lightness of being without hardness. He whispered into the wind, I am not here to escape the world. I am here to join it. The mountain said nothing, but the silence answered. The moment without name. Toward evening, Wei descended into a small plateau of grass, worn flat by centuries of wind. He stood there as the sun slipped behind the western peak, painting the sky in soft hues. Everything became still. Wei felt no boundary between himself and the fading light. No separation between himself and the slow-moving clouds. No distance between himself and the stones underfoot. He breathed. The world breathed with him. A simple truth arose, so gentle it felt like the valley whispering directly into his awareness. To be immortal is not to live forever. It is to stop resisting the way things live. Wei did not grasp for the insight. He let it drift through him, like wind through tall grass. There was no enlightenment, no transformation, no end, and no beginning. Just this. A human being resting so fully inside the world that nothing remained outside. When the stars appeared, Wei remained still, watching without effort. Not someone elevated above life, but someone who had dissolved the borders between himself and it. Someone not seeking immortality, but quietly remembering he had never been separate from the timelessness around him. Thank you for listening. May you be well.